So a lot of people don't really travel with their loved one, especially flying. So can you talk about the process, maybe some advice or tips for folks on how to navigate that journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's this so one of the things that was helpful, so my mom also had aphasia. So aphasia for my mom came actually earliest, and we saw it as like mild cognitive impairment. And so my mom's aphasia made it so that it was also difficult for her to retrieve words. And so that was actually quite frustrating early on when her cognition declined, and her sort of detection to death was 3 years. And with her aphasia, it made it that she couldn't always communicate. And so early on, we actually, as a suggestion from the Aphasia Institute, there's a letter that you can get that basically says, I have the medical doctor, excuse me, a medical note. And it basically says, like, I have aphasia, I have difficulty with retrieving words. Like, this person is my delegate. And I think that's a really helpful thing early on. My mom did not like that, but her decline was so rapid that we didn't really stay in that window of sort of semi-loose, like being lucid. But I think that that's a really helpful thing is to have some of these documents as you're traveling, because if my mom were pulled over, say, in security, it meant that my dad could function as her delegate. And so I think that, if you do want to travel, you should 100% you should travel with your loved one. It does require more planning, but there are tools and resources, and like the Alzheimer Society and all of these groups have all these resources. So number one, like, think about that as the process of going to the airport. But then the second thing I would say about traveling is there are things that you can do that make and can remind the person who has Alzheimer's of what home is like. And I think that you have to anticipate that they're going to have maybe some extra confusion, or they're not going to know where they are. And I think that there's sort of safeties that you can have in place, but traveling with them is still so magical, and you want to make those memories. And so I would say it's the process, and it's just being disciplined about making sure that you have a schedule or a structure, or, some continuity for the person. But those would be kind of my thoughts on it.
And I'm sure having your dad there as another face in the family caregiver really was helpful for her.
Yeah, it was interesting though at times that my mom didn't recognize my dad's face. So even though he was her primary caregiver, there were times that she didn't always recognize him.
Did she always recognize your face?
She did. I believe she did. There was never any indication, but there were times that she didn't always recognize my dad. And that was really interesting. And we don't really know why, but there were just times she didn't always recognize him.